Alright, welcome back to another chapter of Witch and the Holy Night. Nights. Oh boy, it's gonna be retelling what he saw in that particular night. The soldier boy. Let me tell me, how the events of yesterday transpired. Please, share with the rest of the class. On the meaningless nights, you must never look back. Was it a lesson, or was it a warning? It was so very long ago. At the time, I could not have imagined what my very being would become. One night, it came without warning. I was filled with an anxiety so heightened that it made me want to burst into tears. So I fled to my grandfather's workshop. The grandfather I knew, he smiled and kindly placed his hand upon my hand. Oh, a good perspective? Yes, the red that follows your every step. Rather than consoling me, he sent me home with only those haunting words. That night, I am certain that I sensed a shadow lurking behind me. Something or someone watching me from afar. Then, little by little, year by year, it drew closer. Eventually, the presence that once felt like a spot on the horizon grew so close that I could feel it spread down the base of my neck. Of course, it was all in my mind. When I turned around, nobody was there. But that night marked the beginning. In hindsight, I later understood that the indescribable anxiety I felt was the threat of certain death.
Hey dido dido, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed.
Bravo. How much time has passed since that night? Wait, maybe we're playing from Alice's perspective, but currently I should not assume. But I can't question. It lingered deep into the recesses of my mind where childhood memories are kept. A faded storybook escape memory. On dark nights, I still hear the faint echo of my grandfather's words. But no matter how strong the wind may howl, or how entrancing the song of the girl next to me, I could never bury his ominous words completely.
ご到着ね。
Alice. The girl beside me said. Alice and actually, Aoko's perspective question. Alice, in fictionalized voice, speaks once of her role as a bystander. That night, there was only me and her. It was the night that marked as the birth of who I am today. For what should have been quite a memorable night, it sure wasn't a promising start. Dense clouds blocked the starlight above like a black umbrella. Strong wind tore through the night sky, carrying the heavy clouds with it. Creepy, but I like it. The hands of the clock in the middle of the park pointed skyward, as if reaching for the moon. Unfortunately for them, tonight there was no moon to point at. The weather grew fiercer as the night wore on. Inhaling felt as though it would freeze me from the inside. The air chilled me to the bone, threatening to pass up my spine directly to my brain. To prevent my mind from being paralyzed, and to prevent my fingertips from becoming stone, I sparkled the fire using my internal rhythm and emotion.
触覚を譲るわ。幸運ね。あの位置なら刻んでおいたウィスプが止まる。
I responded to Alice with a nod, and then, for just a moment, I saw the ground. My legs quivered ever so faintly. I thought myself they were shaking from the cold, but I wasn't so sure. In reality, they may not have been numbed by the cold, but by fear. I breathed a sigh of relief. My humanity must still be intact if my emotions are still present. Before I could sink into a pool of my own sentimentality, the sensations from the battlefield flowed from Alice into me. A transparent wall covered the entire park. An unrecognizable carpet rooted deep under the earth. Alice Kuonji's chants of the Mare Goose fairy tales permeated the night. The sensations became one with my body. I felt goosebumps in my quivering right arm. Someone had trespassed. Oh boy. The goosebumps crept up my right arm like ants. And slowly but surely made inroads from my heart. Holding back the desire to drive them out, I waited for them to reach a certain definitive position. A moonless night. The park's quaint street lights were not enough to lift the darkness. Dance came to a stop. Far, far from my right arm, she had reached my very heart. Even without the aid of my sense of sight, I could see the intruder lurking in the darkness. The starboard and the bushes about 30 steps back, on all fours, it was beckoning with its right hand.
Sugo!
The enemy's movement and my precision of it were in lockstep. I spun around. The enemy's arm stretched out like a spear. This little weapon aimed at the back of my head brushed my hair at breakneck speed. The omniscient view granted by Alice's ward, I managed to avoid it by the skin of my teeth. My hair fanned through the air from the violence of the attack. An attack grazed my cheek and I felt a small, sharp pain. It felt like the kiss of death. I switched the flow of my body's blood to a different cycle. The blood running through my veins at a few feet per second transmuted into an imaginary element. My body became a single circuit and my heart transformed into a completely different engine. An unknowable motion of immeasurable heat. A mystic, yet adept by humankind. That made me who I am. The fire of life beyond all the miracles and fables. This is what we you know what makes magical energy?
Set.
I turned around, set the enemy in my sights, and held up one hand. My arm was the agent of my will. My lack of experience meant my magecraft would only be possible with the use of vocalizations and gestures. Magical formula were engraved all over the park. All I had to do was ignite them. I needed to direct the flow of the magical energy within my body into each formula. Typically, a mage acts as a conduit. Very wired or wireless, the mage simply ports magical energy into the formula. Releasing this energy into the form of a projectile, stream, or any number of other methods would usually suffice. But in my case, it was a feeling of my limbs whipping out.
Moira!
I fought speed with speed. The enemy's arm extended 10 feet forward, became engulfed in flames. It was nighttime at the park, the scene reminiscent of a campfire, but one in which the center of the flames contained a humanoid figure wriggling like a shadow puppet. The flame subsided just as unnaturally as it had ignited. No crackling, no burning smell.
結界返すわ。死体を確認するから。
After telling this to Alice, I headed towards the motionless figure. I killed it. I killed it. I killed it. Regardless of who my opponent was, I just took someone's life. My throat parched. I swallowed the truth that without this sense of reality, I would have been helpless. So hard and bitter. Impossible to swallow. But I tried to anyway. I was unnervingly calm. My heart pounded and my breath felt heavy, but my mind was nonetheless calm. By the time I realized it, the charred remains were already in front of me. Bracing for a counterattack, I carefully examined the corpse. Everything seemed fine. This body lying slumped to the ground was nothing but ash.
Huh?
But something wasn't right. To begin with, its remains didn't smell organic. Not willing to believe by my hunch, I took a closer look at the corpse's face. All that greeted me was the featureless white face of a mannequin. Screaming, I kicked the mannequin. The corpse crumbled to ash and disappeared with the wind. No, this was no corpse. This was just a puppet. And for all our efforts to lure the master out, we had once again been tricked by a familiar. My debut was first test out in the open. Would be postponed for another day.
いつになったら一人前にって。あれ?
At that moment, I suddenly noticed something familiar in the corner of my eye. Something seemed strange about the slide in the other end of the park. It appeared as though its shadow were larger than it should be. Was I still drunk at the height of battle? It took me a second to realize what it was. That's gotta be Soujuurou. Calling out was a mistake. Startled by my voice, the figure, wearing a familiar high school uniform, took a step back and then it broke into a sprint. Like someone running for their life. Or should I say, he was doing exactly that! In a rush, I shouted to my partner, but she hadn't even noticed the third party's presence in the first place. Though it wasn't as if I could move by myself. Embarrassingly, the fight had taken more out of me than I do have liked. There was no time for niceties. For us, being seen here was a matter of life and death. Shaking up the numbness in my legs, I made for the park's exit. I had to admire his escape. The witness party to the entire night's proceedings had disappeared into the darkness of the residential district without a trace. Complaining to myself wouldn't bring back the figure in uniform. Better at my own competence. Oh, she sounds a little bit younger. Maybe I should go back. I don't know. Then again, I might die. Better at my own incompetence, I gave up the chase. Though temporarily, the park had become Alice's woods. For anyone within a few feet of the park, other park goers' identifiable features and voices became murky, like the stuff of the fairy tales. Tonight's proceedings may have had a witness, but if our identities were still hidden, then this was still a chance. I returned to the park. That uniform was, without a doubt, from my high school. That was clue enough. If he was a schoolmate of mine, I had plenty of methods to flush him out.
にしてもどうしてこう問題ばっかり増えていくんだろう。
I missed my grumbling and set my priorities straight. Before some strange rumor spread, I needed to seal the witness's mouth shut. That was the highest priority. Quickly and without mercy. Looking up, I saw Alice's previously distant figure. Though she was in as much trouble as I was with her existence as a mage is also exposed, she had but one thing to say.
これは困ったことになったわね。
Her statue-like figure staring into darkness seemed more expressionless than calm. I was pissed off. Her inscrutable voice resembled the moonless night so much it made me angry. And I was losing her name. Chapter 4. Okay, heading into the archive for me. There isn't that night. Nope. Losing her name, Chapter 4. There really isn't any other way of saying this. I am a magician. Kinda like those witches in fairy tales who live alone in the woods and perform miracles with the wave of a finger. While the popular depiction of it differs from reality, it's closer to the truth than you know. Right close to our house, I guess. Though just to be clear, no, I don't fly through the sky in a broom. That sucks. I cannot transform into animals or speak with small birds. Modern mages are nothing so fanciful. Our existence sounds unbelievable, but we're quite grounded. Though it may seem like we can do anything, we're actually majorly constrained. And while I still have a lot to learn about it, this is my real job. Sounds a lot more romantic than being a high school student, right? Naturally, this is a secret I don't just share with anyone. A mage must do everything in their power to conceal their work. That is the first and most important of the association's town laws. Not that I'm tempted to let the cat out the bag in the least. My secret identity as an honor student is intact, and absolutely no good would come of me revealing my true nature. If anything, it don't only lead to more headaches. That's why I do everything in my power to keep it a secret. Of course, if I do accomplish anything as a magician by now, then maybe I do see it differently. I fantasized about revealing my secret life work to a single special person when I finally make something of myself. Yeah, it'll be pretty stellar to just confess one day, by the way, I am a magician. That idea alone is enough to keep me from spoiling the big reveal, regardless of the association's rules. My grandfather patted me on the head when I shared these thoughts with him. I don't know if that was praise or what, but I remember that his touch was gentle. I first learned that I would be succeeding my grandfather on the day I graduated middle school. When I returned home, there he was. Your elder sister left the journey. From this day forth, you are the heir to the Aozaki. He said it in such a matter-of-fact way. I knew that the Aozaki family passed down this old tradition of magecraft, but to be honest, I never imagined I would be the one to wield it. Magecraft is supposed to be passed down to a single child. It was my sister's role to take the mantle, that I had no interest in dedicating myself to so many rules and routines. I planned to live a normal life. I had hopes and dreams for the future. I felt bad for my sister, but I was determined to live my life my way. And while I managed to do just that for a time, I was blindsided by a vicious counterpunch. Since then, I've been thrust headlong into a world I had only observed from afar. It was a hell of a way to start high school. But I suppose it wasn't all that bad, all things considered. A lot has happened since then. I was so dazed with this newfound life that a year of school mattered right by. I was the second year before I knew it. Thankfully, nothing drastic has happened. The 6 months my roommate and I totally tried to kill each other, notwithstanding. As it happens, I've got a natural talent at this magic stuff, so I've yet to have any hang up scared either. I'm only human, so I've had my fair share of headaches for sure. But never once did I worry about my future. I thought my life would be smooth sailing all the way. If only everything had gone to plan last night.
どう？
Alice Kuonji asked Aoko Aozaki the second she entered the house. Her dark eyes succeeded where her voice failed to communicate the gravity of the situation. Aoko took up her unflattering coat, hung it on the hanger, and sat down on the sofa. Alice sat across from her, with a table separating them.
そっちは？
よくないわね。偵察に行けるのは7個ぐらい。ここのところ使ってばかりで作り置きをする余裕もなかったし。
Alice's gaze drifted from Aoko to the box at the table.
あの夜、町を監視していた奴はいないの？町の偵察は完璧なんでしょ？そいつら。
それは昼間の話よ。夜間飛行は危険が多いわ。
Meaning they were of the least use when needed the most. Aoko sighed.
そういうあなたは？朝は随分と強気だったけど。
ああ、こっちは予定通りよ。明日までには絞り込めると思う。今朝、飛び丸にうちの生徒の自宅と行動時間を調べさせたから。あの時間に公園をうろつくやつはめったにいないし、簡単に割り出せる。
そう簡単に行くの？
行くわよ。伊達に生徒会に勤めてないわ。その程度のデータは揃えてある。月1のバイト先はおろか、親しい友人宅との移動時間、その優先順位まで調べ上げてるんだから。人には見せたくなかったリストだけど、そんな余裕ないでしょ？だから、そういうのが向いてる副会長にやらせたの。
Incidentally, the creation of this secret file started the moment Aoko became student council president. The mere rumor of its existence was enough to strike fear into the entire student body.
そう。徹底しているわね。相変わらず。
Alice was only mildly surprised. It had been almost 2 years since they first started living together. She knew as well as anyone that when Aoko put her mind to something, she saw it through to the end.
私もあれがこんな風に役立つとは思ってもみなかったけど。ほんと、備えあれば憂いなしとはこのことね。
But what happened last night was far beyond the mere exception to the rule. This predicament should not have been possible.
それより、原因は分かったの？結界の結びに不手際があったなんてのは聞かないわよ。
Aoko glared at her. The award was Alice's responsibility. If it was to blame for last night's trouble, Alice had to own up to her fair share. Alice and Aoko may have been roommates and partners, but it was a relationship of convenience. While lineage had brought them together, they were more like enemies than allies. Ultimately, they were just not a match. If there was a blunder, it was punished. Where there was an opening, it would be attacked. If there was an opportunity, the two of them would kill each other in the event of such a moment. Alice locked eyes with Aoko. Aoko's fierce gaze could make a grown man cower in fear. But Alice did not bat an eyelash.
仮の話だけど、あの結界に落ち度があったのなら、今まで何度もこういう状況になっていたでしょうね。
I suppose you're right, Aoko agreed, as the question reaffirmed her trust in Alice.
結界のあり方は完璧だったのね。
絶対とまでは断言はできないけど。
Alice answered as flatly as ever. I bet the field is like a sanctuary sealed away from the real world. Steps are taken whereby a certain area is cut off from the outside world. There are various kinds of battlefields. There are physical ones that close off an area behind a wall, and less tangible ones that use mirrors, mist, or trees to conceal that which occurs within. Remember, when closing off an area to the outside world, you cannot avoid communicating the abnormality's existence. In other words, that the area may be closed off to the outside world, but it is impossible to hide the fact that it is closed off. In time, someone will take interest in a sealed off area even if he cannot see what is going on inside. Some would say this is putting the cart before the horse. The ideal field would be one that was both undetectable and impervious to interference from the outside. That was exactly the kind of Alice had generated in the park the night before.
その場所に用があっても、今はないように思わせれば、誰もそこには立ち入らない。隠したい場所の周りに、一時的な意識の改ざんを促す結界を張る。手間はかかるんだけど、1時間程度の人よけには信頼性は高い結界よね。アリスの鏡を使った一級品だし、途中で破れることもない。事実、入ってきたのはあの人形だけだとはっきり感じられた。これで完璧じゃなかったら何が完璧なのよ。
私もわからない。森作りに落ち度はなかったわ。森は数日かけて栽培したものだし、今まで通り信頼できる結界よ。けど例外があったのなら、どこかで見落としがあったのね。
Though Alice's words concealed the possibility, her eyes expressed her confidence that she had overlooked nothing.
参った。こうなると、一番いいのは、あいつが人形使いだってパターンね。それならかろうじて納得できる。相手が魔術師なら、結界の侵入ぐらいできるでしょうし。問題は、侵入した時の違和感をどうやって消したかってことだけど。
The thought of being targeted by this individual was pretty terrifying. If they were able to penetrate Alice's field, it could only mean that their skill in magecraft was superior to Alice's. Alice, in her current state, would be completely helpless against such a foe.
その線はないわ。彼は部外者よ。ムクドリはともかく、ロビンが後をたどれなかったもの。魔力の気配は全くなし。誰かの魔術で操られている犠牲者というのもないわね。
Aoko was quickly running out of straws to grasp at, and that meant she was out of questions to ask. All she could do was call it bad luck and leave it at that.
魔術師の秘密を見られて、おまけに目撃者を逃がしたか。普通の高校生の悩みじゃないな。
The silver groaned as she leaned back. Her gaze went out to the brown ceiling with a sang. There wasn't much of a view. She was becoming increasingly depressed.
青子、覚悟を決めておいて。
Her roommate's voice seemed different, but Aoko just kept staring up at the wooden ceiling.
それとも、あなたにできないのなら、私が言ってあげてもいいけど。
The cool-mannered girl's statement carried an equally icy implication. Aoko took the words in slowly with as much sincerity as she could muster. It was like trying to swallow a molten lead.
そうだ。覚悟なんて、もう決めたでしょ。
The thought sounded hollow even as it popped into her head. This was clearly different from last time. While the aim was indeed the same, the circumstances surrounding your target were clearly different. She may have been determined before, but that was as a mage. If enemies emerged, she would kill them. If she was challenged, she would step up to the fight. It was a fight between two mages, and her opponent was in the wrong. And if this could only end in death for one of them, it was an outcome both parties could accept. Kill or be killed. Morality had no weight on the scale. But this time was different. Her opponent was neither enemy nor mage. And even if she was prepared to kill them, this person was likely not ready to die. That's why morality did factor into it now. Was she truly up to the task of murdering an innocent person? Could she swallow the fact that this was a common occurrence for a mage? She snorted sardonically. Being a mage did not mean that Aoko was some kind of monk who would cut ties with the real world on a whim. If there was one thing Aoko hated, it was doing things without conviction or an understanding of exactly why she was doing them. When she acted, she preferred to act decisively.
やるしかないだろうね。
As she said it, she got up from the sofa, having had her fill of the ceiling for one day. Aoko had returned to the Aoko always, and Alice was done probing her.
じゃあこれ
You can have this choco ball. It may make you feel less depressed. Have it. It's yours. As if to reward her, Alice produced a small bottle. Oh. It fit neatly in the palm of her hand. The bottle looked completely out of place in her slender fingers. The glass was cloudy and it appeared empty. Some shreds of paper remained at the front where there was once a label.
何よそれ。
Aoko stared at the bottle suspiciously.
収納の小瓶ちょうど一つ余ってたからあげるわ。
はい。
A stylish bottle.
名前は忘れたけど中国の小説に出てきたのと同じよ。
Aoko was miraculously able to parse what Alice meant.
それってレンゲ堂の兄弟の話？じゃああの赤いひょうたんと同じなわけ？言いたくないけどそこら辺の風邪薬のラベルを無理やり剥がして小瓶に見せかけてるそれが？
Alice looked at the bottle and acknowledged how ordinary it looked. She also understood that she would not be the one using it as she set it on the table.
赤いひょうたんじゃなくて陽子玉の上瓶の方。
そういう問題じゃない。私は魔術師としての雰囲気を論じてるんだ。
些細なことを気にするのね。せいろがんの瓶じゃないだけいいと思うけど。
She made a good point. I'm not gonna be shitting from holding a bottle.
蓋を開けて相手の名前を尋ねればいいから。ただし相手に抵抗する意志が残っている場合小瓶は割れるから気をつけて。
Aoko raised her eyebrows.
ちょっと待った。抵抗する意志があるとダメって眠っている時にやれってこと？
それは試したことがなかったわ。眠っているのに返事をする人っているの？
たまにいるけど。
Sleepwalkers?
まあ確かに珍しいわね、そういう人。
In that case, one would have to weaken them until they were about to pass out.
ああ、そうそう。薬や魔術がかかっているとその重さでも割れるから気をつけて。
使えない。それってほとんど役立たずってことじゃない。
それは青子次第ね。
What kind of drugs? Alice turned away as she replied. As if the topic no longer mattered to her.
はあ、 アリスがこういう小道具好きなのは知ってたけどね。これも趣味なわけ？
Aoko asked, hoping Alice would deny it.
多分。それでどうするの？持っていくのか行かないのか。
Without answering, Aoko did her to bed before taking the bottle and putting it in her pocket. She figured she might be able to find some use for it. Two hours had passed and the clock struck 9. The conversation had moved from the drawing room to the sunroom, and had manifested into the kind of scene one would not expect in such a mansion. Food.
まあ本当はね、飛び丸に任せる気はなかったんだけど。
A hot earthenware pot sat on the table. Aoko spat out complaints to no one in particular as she plucked food from it with her chopsticks. Tonight they were eating a traditional Japanese meal that looked out of place in this mansion. When it came to the kind of Japanese hot pot where all one had to do was buy and boil ingredients, it was usually Aoko's responsibility. Alice sat across from Aoko as she silently poked at the pot with a fork.
山城のやつが来るなり、しずきくんはまだ部活に入っていないから面倒見てあげてくれないかななんて言ってくるもんだからさ。全校生徒の行動範囲なんて見直す気力なくなっちゃったのよ。
The egg she had plucked was still as silky as the baby's bottom, so she returned it to the pot. She settled for the shirataki noodles instead.
そりゃあのバカがバイトで忙しいのは知ってるわよ。だからできるだけ春先までのんびりしてて、あんなのでも親身になってくれそうな部の部長に当たってみたのに。ありがとうの一つもないってのはちょっと尺に触るわよね。ねえ、聞いてるアリス？
Are you listening to me complaining? Alice. Alice. Alice, stop grabbing the food and listen to me. As if her mouth was full, she simply nodded in response. Her expression stated that she had no interest nor opinion on the matter, but she at least appeared to be listening. Satisfied, Aoko nibbled on some hand-pan fish cake.
それに私、いい人なんて言われるやつは信用できないのよ。あろうことか、飛び丸までそんなこと口走る始末だし。あれはいい人なんじゃなくて、ただぼんやりしてるだけなんだっての。だいたいあそこまで言われて怒りもしないなんてどうかしてるわ。
Her thoughts went to what had happened to the student council room earlier that day. She remembered how non-responsive Soujuurou had been to her words. His unconcerned face alone was enough for her to swallow the rest of her handpan without chewing it.
何が分かってるんだなよ。
His words were a lot like those that ended her childhood.
青子ちゃんは分かっているんだね。それでも自分であり続けられるということはとても強いことなんだよ。
Perhaps it was meant as a compliment, but she took it as a patronizing way to pity her, because the person who said it had acted like she was looking at a wounded animal.
あんな変態の言ってたことなんて今さらどうでもいいけどさ。
That episode might have made her the most confused she had ever been in her life. Yet, what shocked young Aoko the most was the look of pity on the face of the person she admired the most.
喧嘩。
The abrupt comment stopped her in her tracks.
ごめん、聞いてなかった。喧嘩ってあの喧嘩？
Alice nodded.
あなたの感想だけじゃ状況はよくつかめないけど。
There?
つまり、青子はその人に喧嘩を売りたかったのね。
Yep. Alice bit into the bare last handpin. Her remark was unexpected but completely on point.
なんでそうなるのよ。 私はあんなのと1秒だって関わりたくないだけだってば。だいたいそれどころじゃないし、興味とか全くないし、会話もこれ以上ないってぐらい簡潔に切り上げたし。
ならどうして今そんな話をするの？
それはあんたに今日の調査過程を知らせてあげたのよ。それ以外何があるっていうの？
What other reason could Alice be suggesting Aoko had for breaking it up? It would be several hours later in bed that Aoko realized that she had dug her own grave.
いいけど私は別に。ただ青子は本当にその人が嫌いなの？
Alice ate her hot pot in silence as if she was honoring some sort of secret ritual. Weenie. Her face was indifferent as always, but she was secretly enjoying how flustered Aoko was. Aoko was none the wiser to this. Normally she would have noticed immediately, but she was not quite herself at this moment.
本当にって、そりゃそうよ。気に食わないって何度も言ってるじゃない。
そう。具体的には？
は？具体的にはって、そんなのに理由なんて。
Hey, chopsticks are being thundery. She trailed off as she finally realized how disagreeable she was being. She could come up with no reason why. Her instincts had told her that she was incompatible with that tech. But why such a strong reaction? More than anything in the world, Aoko hated emotions without reason and decisions made with no rationale.
嫌いなものは嫌いなんだから、ちゃんとどっかに理由があるんだと思うけど。
She became more flustered the more she talked. Unfortunately for her, she could not come up with a coherent reason to hate Soujuurou Shizuki. It was not his fault that he had zero common sense. It was the fault of the environment he grew up in. In fact, it was admirable that he was trying so hard to adapt to civilized society. As clueless as he might seem, he was not a complete waste of space. If he seemed a bit slow, it was only because his gentle nature compelled him to think before acting. When one looked at everything objectively, the conclusion was obvious. As much as he was loath to admit it, he really was a good guy everyone had him pegged as.
ちょっと本気かっての。人間的に悪いところ、本当にみじんもないのか？あれ。
There was plenty, so she left it at that for now. The chopsticks she had been using came to a stop. She was getting very annoyed. An irrational hatred burned through her head. Unable to come to terms with her feelings, she desperately tried to analyze Soujuurou, but her mind only went in more circles. Alice fixed Aoko with a deadpan stare.
呆れた。
A small sigh.
らしくないわね、青子。
Those words were the final blow. Aoko felt the floor fell out from under her. She wasn't able to leave her chair until long after Alice had finished eating and left. However, even after getting knocked down, Aoko Aozaki was not one to be kept that way. She made short work of clearing up after dinner and, after considering the first bed of the night, Alice left the drawing room. Since it was customary in these sorts of mansions to turn the lights off when leaving an empty room, the only lit areas of the house were the drawing room and the two girls' bedrooms. The upstairs was enveloped in darkness. Aoko briskly made her way to the deepest part of the east wing, along the long corridor. illuminated but not only by the light of the moon, and arrived at their room.
結論として、やっぱり騙し討ちは気に食わない。
She had been considering this on the way down the corridor, or perhaps ever since she left the drawing room. The moment she entered the room, she drew her proverbial line in the sand.
やるにしても隠れるのはなし。正面から堂々と向かい合って理由を言う。
This was not a concession driven by feelings of sympathy or compassion. For her, this was simply the way things ought to be.
よし、そうと決まれば。
After settling her resolve, she headed to the study next door.
木曜棚の当時欄、緑の背表紙と。
Without hesitating, she removed one book from the countless volumes on the shelf. The introductory textbooks transported here from the Aozaki residence were separated into 6 shelves, labeled Monday to Saturday. Aoko had organized the books by topic, genre, and purpose, and had more or less memorized exactly what was in her personal library. Referencing any of this material took her no time at all, as was befitting the role of the keeper of the study. No, this keeper's fiefdom was nothing more than a small room. But Aoko and Alice had given up all hope of declared mess of a library in the annex. Nevertheless, on occasion, Aoko would have no option other than to give Alice a heads up and visit it when this study did not meet her needs.
できればそれは避けたいところだけど、と。
Aoko placed a thick green book down and took a seat. The desk, she said, that was sturdy but uninviting. It wasn't the sort of furniture girls her age grew attached to, but she liked its minimalist elegance nonetheless. She flipped lightly through the book's old, worn pages.
アリスみたいな結界は私にはまだ無理だ。人払いはその場所自体に頼らないといけないか。
The mountains, the woods, the school building empty at night. She was looking for a place that would be, except for the force of luck, what of people, allowing her to forego the use of magecraft.
茨の壁だの魔力の霧だの、そういう回りくどいのもなんだしな。退路を断つっていうなら、もっとこう見た目にも状況的にも派手な方が効果的だし。
Muttering about how there had been some bits expelled that fits her needs, she continued to flip through the pages. It goes without saying that she was looking for a way to deal with the witness from the previous night. Magecraft's users were many, but not all encompassing. Fundamentally, Magecraft was good for making things or phenomena that existed already, while more or less bypassing the time and resources conventional means would require. It was, however, unable to manifest phenomena that were impossible in this world. It was essentially an equivalent exchange that used a variety of shortcuts. A phenomenon made possible by human hands, actualized by the individual's power. That was generally what magecraft was. To give a simple example, if Aoko were so inclined, she could make an entire lake appear in a dimension. However, it had to be something that existed within this world. Nothing, not even the smallest matter, could escape this unbreakable law. Even if Aoko were to release a level of heat on par with an F-15 fighter jet's afterburner, that event would only be possible if the circuit named Aoko Aozaki acted as a temporary input variable in a magical formula. The derived equivalence was simply a value that already occurred in reality. If the variable in the equation did not exist elsewhere in reality, the spell would not be valid. The imaginary element known as magical energy was like a light that could only slip its fantasy through the network of order at the moment of ignition, giving form to the non-existent illusions invading reality, but something the universe did not allow.
とは言ってもエーテルは基本何にでもできるんで、大元が嘘なんだっけ。魔力だけで構成されたものは幻想扱いされて急速に消えていくとか、典型的な結界、茨の壁とかはもともと茨を生やしておいて魔力で一気に成長強化してるものだし、魔力っていうのは結局使い勝手のいいガソリン兼事象に火をつける火花ってわけで、なんて言いつつ架空要素云々より基本的な回路の接続と魔力を加工して弾くことぐらいしかできないのよね、私。
Having to herself, she looked for a battlefield or something similar, more suited to her current ability. The identity of the witness was still unknown, but if they were a classmate of Aoko's, she had any number of pretexts by which to lure them out. The problem was after that.
そうなると問題は命中率よね。一撃で決めないと逃げられちゃうだろうし。
To be honest, she wasn't confident she could handle this smoothly without Alice's support. But Aoko saw no reason to ask for help given that the target in question was a regular bystander. Fledgling as she was, she still had her pride as a mage. She continued to turn the pages rhythmically. In the midst of all the fluttering sound of tumbling through the volume, Aoko suddenly stopped her finger at the center page.
見つけた。
She smiled to herself. It was a simple formula that she had tucked away somewhere in the recesses of her memory. A spell of simple destruction.
檻をね、作ればいいのよ。狩りをする時の常套手段じゃない。獲物を逃げられないようにするのは。
She placed a bookmark in the book, closed it, and got up to return to her room. Suddenly, she felt someone watching her. Through the window, she saw her in the night. A girl staring back with a cold-hearted expression. The person of all my problems. The girl's face was hers, the expression adoptedly her own. She began planning how to erase the witness. Let us say it was something as elaborate as the plan was overkill. This was just a job. She was going to make a cage and then lure her prey into it. There was no getting around it. Premeditated violence.
さ、そろそろアリスは上がったかな。
Speaking in the hope a bat would return some warmth to her chilled heart. About 20 minutes had passed since she gave Alice the privilege of the first of the hot water. Alice tended to bathe quickly, finishing well under 10 minutes. Her roommate was the type that could not understand the spirit of the bath, treating it as nothing more than a necessity for looking after one's body. For Alice, the concept of staying at the hot spring inn sounded more like a chore than anything. Though in this regard, Aoko had to agree.
よし、浴場はカラッと。あれ、今に電気ついてる？
It was unusual for Alice to sit in the drawing room after her bath. On nights when she had nothing to discuss, it was her style to return directly to her bedroom.
アリス、いるの？
Alice nodded. With no book in hand, it appeared that Alice had been waiting for Aoko.
そういうこと。私も信用ないな、ほんと。
Aoko scratched her head in exasperation. Was it that Alice was worried about her? or had no faith in her? Her expression was so calm, Aoko could hardly figure out what she was thinking.
方針なら決まったけど、聞く？
その顔を見れば聞かなくてもわかるわ。
And
迷い
but
が
now
な
that's
くなったのは
screaming.
いいことだけど、悪い癖ね、青子。
Alice let out a small sag. It was unusual for Alice to make such a display of her disappointment.
ええ、騙し討ちは趣味じゃないから。殺すにしても正々堂々、正面から理由を言った後にする。それならすっぱり後腐れもないし、文句ある？
文句はないわ。そういうの好きか嫌いかはこの際関係ないでしょうし。けど
確実性はどうかってことでしょ。私いまいち命中率悪いし、その辺の問題は場所選びでフォローしようかなと。私はアリスのようにはいかないから、物理的に逃げられない場所にしようと思うんだけど、何かアイディアない？
Alice nodded and thought. The figure that gently rested in her lips indicated that the question was to her liking.
鏡はどう？鏡の国なら永遠に閉じ込めていられるけど。
あんた、そういうところ常識ないわよね。
She frowned at Alice's bad taste. It was the kind of idea her roommate found to be inspired, but Aoko knew was out of the question. Aoko was looking for a natural bonded field she could prepare, not a realm bordering on a true match that she couldn't create to begin with.
なら他を当たるのね。でもここを使うのだけはやめてちょうだい。
言われなくても分かってるって。けどそうね。
Maybe I should.
ミラーハウスはいいアイディアかも。
Aoko smirked and shifted her balance away from the wall she was resting on.
サンキュー、アリス。全体の流れは出来上がったわ。ほんと、こういうのってダメ元でも相談してみるものよね。
Now in a good mood, Aoko retreated from the drawing room. Alice tried and failed to visualize what kind of blueprint Aoko had drawn up in her mind. But whatever it was, it appeared to be the thorough kind Aoko was good at. Aoko headed for the bathroom, humming to herself as she went. A year and a half of sharing the living space had taught Alice something. When Aoko Aozaki was in the good of a mood, only deep trouble could follow. Bird.
青子一人に任せていいのかですって。
It wasn't clear how long the bird had been in the drawing room. Chirping at Alice, the robin-like bird pranced across the furniture as if it were its property.
そうね。彼女が一人でやると言ったのだから任せるのが正しい信頼関係なんでしょうけど。
The girl in black raised her arm. The bird, chirping once again, alighted on their outstretched, affectionate finger.
嫌な話だけど信頼と信用はまた違う話よね。
The bird popped out its stout chest in agreement. And Aoko was none the wiser to her roommate's rather unsettling comments. This is going on for this is kind of long, so I guess we can end the episode here. We're gonna continue on with chapter 4, and if it ends a little bit quickly, we're gonna jump straight into the 5th one, or maybe the archive stuff that's gonna be maybe unlocked. Who knows? But for now, I'm gonna end the episode here. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in another one real soon. And also subscribe, it's free. Thanks.